In the annals of history, a woman emerged as both a seer and a sacrificial lamb, caught in the unforgiving grip of her visions. Elizabeth Barton, known as the Holy Maid of Kent, danced with destiny, glimpsing the future but unable to alter her own tragic course. Her life unfolded as a complex tapestry of defiance and devotion as she navigated the perilous waters of a turbulent era. A nun, a prophet, and ultimately a martyr. Elizabeth Barton's name resonates through the ages. Her uncanny abilities granted her fame, yet they also rendered her a dangerous adversary. Her unwavering opposition to Henry VIII's tumultuous marital decisions cast her into the shadows of a ruthless monarch's wrath. Her fate, a gruesome execution and a macabre display, meant to haunt the dreams of those who dared to challenge the powerful. Welcome to Bizarre History. Join us as we step into the unsettling world of Elizabeth Barton and find out just how disturbing her life really was. Elizabeth Barton began her life in modest circumstances around 1506, entering into service around 1524 at age 19. As a common career path for women then, she worked for a local farmer named Thomas Cobb, managing the household. Though seemingly unremarkable, even exceptional women like Bess of Hardwicke started similarly before becoming the second wealthiest woman in England after Queen Elizabeth. Thus, domestic service did not preclude Barton's later ascendance. Cobb held lofty roles as bailiff and steward, overseeing the Archbishop of Canterbury's estates. As the manor's senior officer, Cobb significantly impacted the community. The town priest was Richard Masters, who succeeded the esteemed Erasmus as rector. When Cobb asked Masters and Edward Thwaites to visit Barton, her story took a mysterious turn. Some say the men exploited Barton, but they also took her seriously as a potential prophetess. Intrigued by Barton's case, Masters reported to Archbishop William Warham, who promptly visited her himself. Finding Barton captivating, Warham told Masters to keep him informed of further developments. More people from Canterbury came to observe Barton, who seemed quite ill and spoke of visiting heaven during trances. However, she nearly exposed herself as a fraud by claiming the Virgin instructed a bell be rung for a miracle at the nearby chapel in Courtet Street, which had no bells. Though Cobb highlighted this fabricated tale, Barton soon resumed discussing assorted topics. As time passed, her faith was questioned by many, especially when she said that she saw heavenly and infernal beings fighting for the souls of those who interrogated her. She also used her trances to oppose the religious reforms that were taking place in England. She became very popular among the people of Kent, who flocked to see her perform a miracle that she had foretold. On that day, she delivered a fervent speech, then fell down before a statue of the Virgin Mary, declaring that she was cured of her illness. The crowd was amazed by her miracle, and the Archbishop reported it to King Henry VIII. The king asked Thomas More, a renowned scholar and statesman, for his opinion on her case. But More was not impressed by her words, and said that there was nothing remarkable about them. However, he did not want to condemn her, because many people believed that she had received a miracle from God. Elizabeth Barton became famous for her prophetic abilities, while King Henry VIII was falling in love with Anne Boleyn. Elizabeth felt a calling to become a nun, and Archbishop Warham helped her join the Benedictine House of St. Sepulchres in Canterbury. There, she lived a humble and pious life, devoted to God and his saints. She saw angels, martyrs, and confessors in her visions, and she also tried to contact the souls of the dead for their relatives. She did not care for worldly possessions, and she gave away any gifts she received. No one doubted her sincerity or her holiness, as long as her visions did not challenge the status quo. In October 1528, Archbishop Warham wrote to Cardinal Wolsey about facilitating a meeting between Elizabeth Barton, a nun known as the Holy Maid of Kent, and the cardinal. Barton had sought an audience with Wolsey, who was working to secure King Henry VIII's divorce from Catherine of Aragon. Though initially eager to arrange the meeting, Warham soon grew wary as Barton began speaking out publicly against the divorce. Initially supported by Cardinal Wolsey and King Henry VIII for her traditional Catholic preaching, Barton soon earned the ire of Protestant reformers like William Tyndale, who deemed her a fraud. However, Barton's downfall ultimately came through her opposition to Henry's desired divorce from Catherine of Aragon to marry Anne Boleyn. Though Barton tried discreetly warning Henry's ministers and the king himself against this course, her prophecy that Wolsey would be utterly destroyed for enabling the divorce proved ill-advised. Unlike the cautious Queen Catherine, Barton failed to grasp the danger of publicly challenging the king's wishes. Barton held several meetings with King Henry VIII himself, consistently condemning his plans to marry Anne Boleyn. The monks did not doubt Barton's holiness, though she was outspoken. Barton even claimed that God had threatened Henry's life should he marry Anne. but the king ignored her warnings and proceeded with the divorce. By 1530, Barton had become a real political force, corresponding with the Pope and predicting destruction if he did not support Catherine. Though impressed by Barton, Thomas More advised her to refrain from discussing the divorce, wanting to protect her from harm. But Barton's dangerous words were leading her down a treacherous path. It was widely known that Sister Elizabeth predicted if King Henry VIII wed Anne, he would soon lose his kingdom and die. In 1532, it seemed King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn would soon marry. However, Elizabeth Barton continued protesting their union. When the couple passed through Canterbury, Henry tried bribing Elizabeth with an abbess position if she stayed silent. Simultaneously, Anne's mother invited Elizabeth to serve Anne. The nun rejected both offers. Despite secretly marrying Anne, Henry survived Barton's prophecy of doom. Initially, people believed Elizabeth's visions, but by July, an enraged Henry commanded Thomas Cromwell to investigate the nun. Cranmer interrogated Elizabeth, who maintained her genuine visions. She requested time to interpret them and asked to return after her next trance. Cranmer played along, hoping to extract information before sending her to Cromwell. Barton issued dire warnings to Archbishop Warham and Cardinal Wolsey that God would punish them if they continued supporting the king's quest for divorce. In late 1532, Barton had a vision of Henry's imminent excommunication, alarming Thomas More, who decided to speak with her about her increasingly political prophecies. Barton garnered authority in religious circles and befriended critics of the king like Gertrude Courtenay. Although Elizabeth had written to Catherine of Aragon, the queen wisely avoided meeting her. Catherine's chaplain did converse with Elizabeth, leading to a charge of misprision of treason. By 1533, Barton's words resulted in trouble. Archbishop Cranmer summoned her for questioning in Otford, after which Thomas Cromwell began investigating her. Cromwell arrested her ally, Father Bocking, and searched his home. Cromwell could not get Elizabeth to confess to contacting Catherine. Once Cranmer obtained the necessary details, Elizabeth was sent to the Tower of London. After a thorough inquiry, Barton was imprisoned in the Tower for treason and heresy. In November 1533, under intense questioning, she confessed to acting against the king. Barton was forced to do public penance and have her crimes denounced at St. Paul's Cross, marking her dramatic downfall. In November 1533, she was forced to do a public penance at St. Paul's Cathedral. She had to read a confession that admitted she was a liar and a deceiver who had caused trouble and misled many people by her false visions. She said she was a most miserable and wretched person who had been the original of all this mischief, and by my falsehood have deceived all these persons here and many now present. After the confession, a sermon was preached to denounce her and her followers. They were also required to repeat the same penance in Canterbury later, but this was not enough to save them from the king's wrath. In January 1534, Parliament passed an Act of Attainder against them, which meant they could be executed without a trial. On April 20th, 1534, Elizabeth Barton was hanged at Tyburn, along with 5 of her associates. Before she died, she said, "Hither am I come to die, and I have not been the only cause of mine own death which most justly I have deserved. But also I am the cause of all these persons which at this time there suffer. And yet, to say the truth, I am not so much to be blamed, considering it was well known unto these learned men that I was a poor wench without learning, and therefore they might have easily perceived that the things that were done by me could not proceed in no such sort. Because the things which I feigned was profitable unto them, therefore they much praised me and bare me in hand, that it was the Holy Ghost, and not I that did them. And then I, being puffed up with their praises, fell into a certain pride and foolish fantasy with myself, and I thought I might feign what I would, which thing hath brought me to this case." In the spring of 1534, Elizabeth Barton met her tragic end. After months of miserable imprisonment in the Tower of London, she was found guilty of treason and heresy. Though once supported by Sir Thomas More, Elizabeth was now abandoned to her fate. On April 20th, Elizabeth and 5 of her loyal monks and priests were dragged to Tyburn gallows. As crowds bayed for blood, Elizabeth was hanged until near death. Her body was then subjected to the gruesome ritual of drawing and quartering. Once disemboweled and beheaded, Elizabeth's severed head was boiled and impaled on a spike on London Bridge, the first and only woman to receive this grisly warning. Meanwhile, her body was quietly buried in Newgate Cemetery. If you want more of history's long-held secrets and darkest confessions, hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. From us at Bizarre History, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.